Biden says the quiet part out loud, though it was still very quiet because Biden can't talk these days. Senator Lindsey Graham gets roasted by a conservative for his January 6th comment, and new evidence surfaces of the Biden's corruption. Hello, I'm Mike Huckabee with The Breakdown. As Grant Atkinson writes for the Western Journal, following Supreme Court Justice Stephen Breyer's retirement announcement, President Biden was meeting with the Senate Judiciary Committee to discuss the newly opened seat on the bench. Quote, during that meeting, Biden exposed the dangerous thinking that has infiltrated the minds of many on the left when he said, there's always a renewed national debate every time we nominate. Any president nominates a justice because the Constitution is always evolving slightly in terms of additional rights or curtailing rights, etc. End quote. Now those words ought to make your blood curdle if it didn't in November of 2020. With that way of thinking, Joe Biden can and will justify anything and everything he does by the Constitution. The scary thing is that so many listening to him will believe him when he says that his actions are constitutional. The ink on the Constitution has been dry for a long time now, and it's not evolving when we aren't looking at it. Simply finding additional rights like abortion hasn't exactly gone over well with the American people. As for curtailing rights, that's the entire reason that the Bill of Rights was even added, to make it abundantly clear that the government has no power to curtail our God-given rights. If you want the Constitution to change and evolve, there is a very specific process for doing that. Liberals hate it, though, because it involves winning the support of the vast majority of the country. It's so much easier just to have judges wave their magic gavels and declare, make it so. Well, in different news, Senator Lindsey Graham came under fire from conservatives for saying that it would be inappropriate for Trump to pardon January 6 protesters. Conservative writer and editor Joel Pollack lambasted him, saying, I want to hear him explain why the guy in the buffalo horns got 4 years in prison while an FBI lawyer who doctored an email to deceive a FISA court on the Russia collusion probe got community service. If stupidity were against the law, then yes, the guy in the buffalo horns would deserve some prison time for doing something monumentally stupid. But it's not against the law to be stupid, so unless he forced his way inside the building or committed vandalism or violence, he doesn't deserve 4 years in prison. At the same time, doctoring evidence to deceive a FISA court and then get a warrant to spy, that's a serious crime, at least unless your ultimate target is Donald Trump. And if it is, then the Department of Justice will go lightly on you. Finally, does anyone remember the first Trump impeachment? You know, the one over his phone call to the president of Ukraine. That was the one where we found out that Democrats think that a Republican president asking a foreign leader if he's investigating corruption involving a former Democrat vice president's son is an impeachable offense. But that former vice president being involved in said corruption isn't in any way a disqualification for being president. Well, a stunning new piece of evidence has surfaced 5 years late. John Solomon at justthenews.com has obtained an email that was written on November the 22nd, 2016. That was 2 weeks after Trump's election. It was written by George Kent, a former U.S. embassy official in Ukraine. It was classified confidential, and so it's been kept from public view, well, until now. The email to Kent's superiors in the State Department said that someone in Washington needed to engage Vice President Biden quietly and say that his son Hunter's presence on the Burisma board undercut the anti-corruption message that the vice president and we were advancing in Ukraine. Solomon writes, Kent's email described an intense pressure campaign by advocates for Burisma, including a former U.S. ambassador, to rehabilitate the Ukrainian company's corrupt reputation and to get Ukraine prosecutors to drop their criminal investigations of the company. Kent even relayed to higher-ups that he had confirmed with Ukrainian prosecutors that Burisma officials had paid a $7 million bribe to make one of the cases against the company just disappear. The bribe was allegedly paid at the time when Hunter Biden was serving on the Burisma board, a job that landed his firm more than $3 million from the Ukrainian energy company. In short, George Kent was aware of the shadiness of Hunter Biden's dealings in Ukraine and how they were undermining efforts to fight corruption, the exact thing Trump was legitimately inquiring about. Yet somehow, even though George Kent was one of the Democrats' star impeachment witnesses, this email and the things he said in it never came up. How curious. Congressional Republicans and some legal experts were outraged at the revelation. Trump was hit with a ridiculous impeachment charge and wasn't allowed to have counsel at the depositions. And now we find that there was exculpatory evidence that was hidden from the president and the public. All I can say is that I hope and expect that Joe Biden's impeachment trial will be much fairer than this. Well, I also hope that you enjoyed this video, and I hope you'll consider subscribing to the channel and clicking the notification bell below. Be sure and leave a like and tell me in the comments, what do you think the chances are that Joe Biden will get impeached? Or do you think Nancy Pelosi will become president before then? Be sure to tune in to the live stream tomorrow at 1 p.m. Central. I'll be answering all your most uncomfortable questions. And remember, if you want more of my news analysis and commentary, sign up for my newsletter. Do it at MikeHuckabee.com. It's completely free. Just sign up. That's going to do it for this edition of The Breakdown. I'm Mike Huckabee.